This lesson is going to teach you how to make a little clay owl, and we made scratchboard so we can make our owl go on our scratchboard. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. First thing that we need is some model magic, or if you made your own clay, then you'll need to get that all ready to go before you start. Now, I won't need this entire packet of model magic for this, so what I'm going to do is just cut this in half so I can kind of feel where it is in there. Just going to cut it right in half. You could also just open the packet and then just divide the clay in half. I'm going to just set one of these off to the side, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to open it. I'm just going to pull down the side and along the edge to get it open. And this is about how much you need. So I'll put it in the palm of my hand so you can see about how much clay I'll be using. So if you made your own clay, you don't need very much. You just need about that much. All right, so I'm just going to put this off to the side. If you're in class, you may want to take a Sharpie marker and write your name and class on the shiny side, because then later we can put our owl on here to dry. Or if you do have scratchboard, we may just go ahead and sit the owl on the scratchboard to dry. Either way is just fine. So I'm going to put my scratchboard off to the side right now so that I can concentrate on my little owl. So I'm just going to knead this a little bit. Now I'm going to divide this in half again. So I'm just going to go like that. Make sure they're about half and half. It doesn't have to be exact, but it should be pretty close. So I'll divide that in half, and I'm going to put this half off to the side. I'm going to roll the other half into a ball. And then I'm going to flatten it out into like a cookie. All right, about like that. And then I'm going to just gently take this cookie and I'm going to pull it into a nice oval shape. I'm not pulling it really hard, just pulling it into a nice little oval shape. I can even take this, because you don't want to put it directly on a table. You could put it on a piece of paper, but if you put it directly on the table, it's going to get stuck, and you don't want that. So I'm just going to put it down on the table and just press it down a little bit. And then I like to flip it over, so I'm working with the smooth side. All right, now, using a paper clip, I'm going to press a small U into the clay for feathers to get texture. We talked about texture and how texture is how something looks like it feels. Now this is tactile texture, so I will be able to actually feel this. Sometimes we work with visual texture where it's just something that looks like you can feel it. So I'm taking my paper clip from last time, and I'm taking it and I'm just going to make little texture marks by pushing this side of the paper clip gently into the clay like this to make a row of little U's. And I'm going to go between the two U's and make more. And then I'll make some at the end. I'll go between each of those U's and make some at the end. Do that again. I'm going to keep doing that until I've filled my whole owl body up with little texture marks. And it'll look like little feathers for my owl. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off two pea-sized pieces from my saved roll of clay and do that here. And then I'm going to roll them into a ball. If they're not very even, you just pinch off a little piece, put on the other one, just roll them up, compare them, and make sure that they're nice and even. And then I'm going to flatten those into round dime shapes for eyes. So I'm just going to flatten them just a little bit like this between my fingers. And I'm going to put them, let me put my other little owl, I'm going to put them down near the top, right there, for eyes. Next, I'm going to use my paper clip and I'm going to press radial lines around the eyes. Radial means it goes around in a circle. So I'm just going to press like this, and I can just twirl this around so that I made lines all the way around. I'll do that on this one. You don't need to press this very hard. All right, now that's just step one for the eyes. You can see I have 2 more layers on the eyes. I'm going to pinch off a pea-sized piece again. Okay, and you all know the size of a green pea. That's the size that we're pulling off. And I'm going to take this pea-sized piece and I'm going to divide it in half again and roll each of those into a ball. And then I'm going to place that in the center of the eye. So I'm going to put that there and flatten it down. You don't want to flatten it so much that you don't see any of the layer underneath. You want to see a little bit of that layer. Now I'm going to pull off another pea-sized piece. I'm going to divide it in half again. This time I'm going to take half of that and put it back, and I'm going to take this half and divide it again. So now I have 1/4 the size of a pea. So just roll those up. So they're very small now, and I'm going to place that in the center very, very gently. I'm going to tap that down. All right, so those are the eyes. My eyes are finished now. So they're actually 3 layers. The next thing I'm going to do is pinch off another pea-sized piece. I always like to just give the same reference every time so that you know how much that you'll need. I'm going to roll it into a ball and then into kind of a tic-tac, like that. And then I'm going to roll it out as wide as the body only. So I'm going to do this under the body so that I can see how wide to make it. Don't make it any wider than the body. It doesn't even have to be quite as wide as the body, but certainly no wider than the body. You don't want this too thin or it'll break. All right, so that's all the more I need. See how it's just as wide as the body, not even maybe quite as wide as this right here. So I'm going to take this and place it above the eyes. I'm going to put it right there. Now, the important thing about at least the Model Magic clay, once you put it down, you can't really pull it back up. So what you need to do, if it's not placed exactly where you want it, just kind of roll it into place. And you can leave it up like this. You can kind of roll it out like that, however you want your owl to look. Now, the next step is to pinch off another pea-sized piece and divide that in half so that you have half of a pea-sized piece. And I'm going to roll it into a ball and then into a tic-tac. So this is only half the size of a pea. And then I'm going to take one end of it, and if you, let me show you this. If you end up doing that, that's not going to work. It's going to be way too skinny and long. Right? It has to look like a tic-tac. So if you did that, just roll it back up. At any time, if you roll out something too much, just roll it back up, and then very gently, we just want it to look kind of like a tic-tac, just like that. You don't want it really long. I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to just pinch one side between my fingers so that it's pointed, because this is going to be the beak. And I'm going to place the beak between the eyes. So I'm going to place it right there. Again, once you put it on there, you can't really take it off. You can just kind of move it from side to side. Don't smash it, just sit it on there. So now I have my eyes, my horns for my owl, great horned owl, and then I have the beak for it. Next, let's pinch off another pea-sized piece. I'll divide that in half. I'm going to make a tic tac out of each of these. I'm just going to roll them in a ball first, then roll them slightly side to side so that I get a small tic tac. And I'm going to place them vertically at the bottom of the body for feet. So they're going to go right there, side by side. So they should be about the same size. And then I can take my paper clip and I'm just going to make a vertical line right there. Just to kind of make it look like little feet. All right, I'm going to pinch off 2 pea-sized pieces. 1, 2. And then I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them together to make a larger piece. And I'm just going to knead those 2 pieces together to make a larger piece. Then I'll roll that into a ball and then into a tic tac. And then I'm going to flatten it into an oval. So I'm just going to flatten it a little bit with my thumb in the palm of my hand. Just flatten it out to be an oval. Don't flatten it too thin. You don't want it to stick to your hand too much. If it does stick to your hand too much, then all you have to do is roll it back up, back into the tic tac, and then flatten it out into an oval again. Right, if it's too sticky, sometimes this does get very sticky, other times it's very dry. If it's very sticky, instead of your hand, you might want to do it just on your finger. So I'm just going to flatten it into a small oval, this time on my finger. You may have to do that. It might work better on your finger. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to pinch one end so it's a little bit like a teardrop shape, like that, maybe even curve a little bit. And this is going to be for the wing. So I'm going to take this and place it right there for one of the wings. And you can shape it. Once you get it on there, you can shape it a little bit. Let's do that again. 2 pea-sized pieces. Put them together. Knead them together a little bit. Roll it out into a ball. A little bit into a tic tac. I'm going to flatten it out into an oval. Don't make your oval too big. And then you're going to pinch it a little bit. And this gets placed on the other side for the other wing. My owl is almost finished at this point. But I want to add some texture for feathers on the wings also. So I'm going to take my paper clip and just like I did on the body, I'm just going to put the rounded end of the paper clip. I'm just going to make a few little marks in the clay for texture on the wings. So at this point, my little owl would be finished and I just have to let it dry. And then once this dries, this Model Magic air dries, and the clay, if you're making the clay that I showed you how to do in the lesson, that is from water and flour and a little bit of salt, then that also air dries. So you just have to put this off to the side to air dry for a little while. So again, if you have your name on here in your class, then we can put them somewhere to air dry. If we decide to put them on our scratchboard to air dry, then very carefully you just take it off like that and you can sit it where it's going to be. Don't squish it. You can just sit it right like that. And then once it's dry, it will most likely be stuck to the scratchboard. If it doesn't stick, then we can always just put a little glue on the back of that and then it will stay there. So right here is where it's going to be. That will be our finished project for this time. So I hope you have a lot of fun making your little clay owl. You'll have a little bit of clay left over maybe So you could make something else with that. Maybe you want to make a little baby owl with it to go with your bigger owl, or maybe you just want to make something else with your clay. But that's all we need for the owl. So I'm going to let you go now and try this yourself. And I hope they turn out wonderfully and that you have a lot of fun.